if you go into Native American teachings, you will often find stories how they've approached loneliness or any kind of personal illness, not as an individual problem, but actually as a sign that society is out of balance. And they had completely different approach towards this kind of things that are happening right now in the society. The pandemic no one is talking about, the pandemic of loneliness. We're living in a time, especially after COVID, where more and more people have closed themselves down since the lockdowns and all of that. And suddenly, life is not resting. Your brain is not resting. It's constantly adapting to what you're doing at any specific moment. And suddenly when we change our behavior to more, let's say, disconnected from others, if we live in a community where people are disconnected firstly from themselves and then also from others, they don't know how to communicate, how to speak up, how to be honest, how to be truthful, how to be authentic, and all of these great qualities, when these qualities are lost, well, obviously we feel lost. So due to the present time, we are being encouraged to approach these things from a new level of thinking. A new level of thinking is not something that's familiar to us because most of us have not been taught how to really live our lives well. Like, if I go into my childhood, I was not even taught how to speak up. So I remember when I was in the first grade, I was actually the most quiet kid. I would not talk with anyone because I was just not used to talk. No one taught me how to speak up, how to talk, how to stand for myself. So those were the things that I needed to learn later in my life. And maybe it can be an example that it's possible to teach yourself to live differently. So the thing was that I had a friend that was just the opposite of me back then. He was talking all the time. And in the afternoon, we've been hanging with each other. And sometimes I went to his place and I've noticed his parents were like that as well, talking about everything. And my mother was always like, why are you so quiet? But my mother was always so quiet as well. My grandfather was a quiet guy. And I've noticed while it's in my family, it's not something that can't be changed. It's just something that wasn't trained. Maybe you don't know anything or you don't have anything to talk about. Maybe you just don't know what to talk about. So you become quiet. And when you become quiet, well, you get lost in your inner world. You see, your mind is not quiet. You just don't speak up. And I've started noticing this because as a little kid, I thought there's something wrong with me when I've seen other people being more loud and talking about all kinds of stuff, even things I didn't even care. They've been talking so easily. And for me, it was like, I have nothing to say. Until later in my childhood, I've noticed that actually I love talking, but only about the things that are important to me. I've noticed that I can easily speak up about the things that matter, the things that are purposeful and meaningful to me. So I've noticed, maybe there is nothing wrong with me. But maybe most people just don't have same interests as I had. So I've noticed maybe I'm just not in the right community. Maybe I'm just not in the right circle. Maybe I'm just not surrounded with the right people. But then eventually I've noticed, I just don't find anyone that would talk about what I want to talk about until I got myself into sports. I got myself into freestyle mountain biking, and suddenly, for a certain period of time, I was all alone in it. I built my home playground, training ground. Few friends helped me, but most of the time I've been alone in it. it was not lonely because I had a great purpose. But once I've started meeting other people from other places that were doing the same thing, and they were also alone doing that thing because it was so specific and so different, we built a community, and suddenly we understood each other. We were able to talk about everything we've been passionate about, and suddenly we've experienced a whole new level of meaning and purpose of this thing. Like, let's see how far we can push this sport together. Let's see how far we can push each other together. And there's something I've learned then about this thing that we call now loneliness. It's really not so individual thing as it is firstly about understanding of ourselves. You see, Native Americans, when they've been approaching someone with a certain particular illness, they would firstly say thanks to the spirit, because that person became a sign that their community went out of balance. That community went out of balance. Today, the society is completely out of balance. And you will not balance it by forcing it to change. And you will not balance it by complaining about it. You will not balance it by writing something on social media about how it's all screwed up, right? You can only balance the society the way that you firstly find balance inside of you. You find out what the loneliness introduces to you. One practical approach that they had was they've encouraged a person to go into the nature and observe the cycles of nature. Observe the rhythm of how things are working, because one day it will click for you and you will notice that you are a part of the nature. They said forest is not afraid to be alone because each tree is connected to the wind, and so are you connected to the whole. So they understood that sometimes when we get lost in life, we truly get lost in our minds. And when we get lost in our minds, we need a remedy, and nature is the remedy, because there was a mind that created it. They knew everything is connected on the web of life, and I think this kind of knowledge is very needed at this time. Everything is connected to the web of life, which means that this web somehow is very intelligent. You have not created the nature, but nature is here and you're part of it. So therefore, something designed it. And as in any field, we look for the wisest one and then we study that person, that figure, right? And we learn from him or her. They are called masters and great teachers, and some people look at them as great mentors, right? But when we have mental troubles, sometimes we need to look at the creator of the mind and study it. That's why they went into nature and studied it. Sure, psychology can help you, but it can also complicate things for you. But nature will simplify things for you, because firstly, it will remind you that there's nothing wrong with you. You've been just lost in certain constructs, in certain concepts, in certain ideas and ideologies, and your perception maybe requires an upgrade. Maybe it was never supportive for you. The way you see the world, well, maybe the game you've been part of is a bit rigid, and it requires for you to step out of it and firstly acknowledge that you've been a part of the game that was maybe not your real interest, your real purpose, your real passion. So yeah, loneliness right now is quite a big deal, but we need to change the way we approach it. Because when we feel lonely, I'm not a stranger to it. I think we all have experienced it at certain moments in our lives, and there's nothing wrong with it, but staying there means that we don't know what to do with it. So when I was the most lonely in my life, I've noticed that I also started to feel depressed. And when I started to feel depressed, I've started looking for quick solutions. I loved sugar, and sugar helped me to fix it for a short period of time. Then I loved movies, and movies helped me to fix it for a short period of time. Series, you know, this movie series, or how it's called, like Netflix now. It helped me to dim it for a short period of time, but nothing truly fixed me. So one day I found out something very powerful. It was that I got my first job. And when I got my first job, I've noticed that, well, now I need to interact with others, with my boss, with my coworkers, with other people, with my clients. And well, at that first job, I've noticed that social interaction is quite of a cure for my depression. It's actually quite fun to interact with others, especially if there's an ingredient of purpose, because I'm not doing that completely meaninglessly. I'm doing that because I'm on a mission to serve that whatever job that I had back at the time. So I've noticed that social interaction is very important, but it requires a sense of purpose. You can't just go outside and just hang with people, because it will slowly turn into, well, quite a meaningless hanging that then requires some more ingredients to it, like some beer and some weed and some other stuff to make it more interesting, right? And it all just leads everything into the downward spiral and more out of balance. And I know there are so many of you here in the community that have been through all of this. There are people who stopped smoking weed, or you're still smoking it and you're looking for solutions and maybe nothing really works. Well, when we start to see the big picture and we notice where we are at that particular moment right now, then we need to admit to ourselves what's the problem. What is really the problem? And then sometimes the problem is too big to fix it. So we need to find in that problem, smaller problem, what is actually in our power to change. And then slowly that big problem will disappear, because we found out smaller dots that are actually creating a big picture. And when smaller dots are changed, well, also the picture will change. And more practically, it may mean like your life has no meaning. And that's why you're smoking weed and drinking lots of beer and hanging with wrong people. But the question is like, why your life has no meaning? How are you spending your days? How are you waking up? How are you going to sleep? What are you doing in between? What is your job like? What is your environment like? Could you maybe change it a little bit? Clean it up a little bit? Could you start organizing small things? What about your body? Are you healthy? Are you working out? Are you eating well? And these small changes will add up to something bigger. You will notice that maybe you can't just change all of a sudden that big thing for you, like change your life immediately. But you can start with balancing your sleeping cycles, your sleeping rhythm. That will add up to have more energy and clarity, and then change what you eat and change what you do in your free time. Change your phone for books. Start reading more. You see, I have a friend of mine who for quite some time was living with his parents, and he was very annoyed by that because it was quite of a toxic environment for him. But at the same time, he had no idea what to do, because he was also working with his father that has his own company. He was helping him. So he was quite stuck in that situation, and he was afraid to say to his father that he wanted to quit that job because he wanted to pursue something bigger, something more important. But then one day, he started thinking deeply what he really wanted to do with his life, and he noticed that he has a great social anxiety. And he started asking himself, like, how could I cure this social anxiety? And he noticed, well, one way to really do it is to have more interactions with people. And then his question was like how to make it purposeful. And well, he went on social media and he started looking a little bit what other people are doing, and he noticed something very interesting. He kind of fallen in love with this idea of door-to-door sale because he found out many, social media influencers who've been talking about how it changed their lives, how they became like less scared of rejection, less scared of all kinds of interactions, and they became more confident. So he decided that's what he will do. So he applied for a few jobs, and for some time he didn't receive any reply until one day one person really accepted him and he became a part of that company, quite a huge, successful company. So then when he applied for that job and when he got that job, he was also able to decide, okay, now I want to start living on my own. I will start step by step changing my life. So he also found a new place to live. He was able to afford to live there, to pay the rent. And now he's living on his own. He started, educating himself. He started reading books. He started doing courses. He started at his company. They're constantly teaching all these people to be better. So they're constantly growing. His boss became like a mother figure, a very loving mother figure. All these things started happening to him, for him, because he decided to change. So suddenly, out of a miserable situation, he found these tiny dots that could be changed. Firstly, he started with finding a new job. Then, obviously, articulating clearly to his father and his family why he wants a change, and they accepted it quite well. And then he went on. He moved to a new place. He needed to find a new place. It took him some time. But you know what? Now when we meet, he's unrecognizable. That's how much he changed. He's not so socially anxious anymore. He noticed that he actually loves people. He loves working with people. It's not a situation that will work for everyone, but I feel that the thing with loneliness is often just that we start avoiding something that feels so unpleasant. And we start avoiding it because we firstly don't have a sense of, we don't have much interests, like something we would love to do, or we've stopped doing something we love due to certain reasons, and then we never went back. Like sometimes, once I talked with someone that during COVID went into a deep depression, and then she stopped doing everything and she felt miserable and she wanted a change so badly. And I asked her, what was she doing before this period? And she said, I was so passionate about dancing. And I said to her, go back into dancing. She signed in, and a few days later she signed into karate, and she met there few new friends, and her social life started improving. So the point is that we firstly find out what is really important to us. And that's why nature can help you, because it will simplify your life. If you shut off your phone more frequently, go into the nature and really explore the connection between you and it, not some superficial or some philosophical, like I'm connected with everything. It doesn't help much. I mean, it can if you really deeply experience it, but if it's only mental, it will not change much. But see how it works. See how animals are functioning. See that sometimes you will find out hierarchies also in animal systems. You will see sometimes animals fight with each other, and then they shake off that stress. Sometimes they help each other. So you will be able to understand that the same hierarchy is also in our society, and sometimes, there's tyranny. Sometimes people are suffering due to narcissists and people who are manipulating them. And rather than feeling sorry for yourself, because those things are happening and worse are happening. Notice that it is a part of our nature that requires a certain type of new understanding and process of healing. And then notice what is really interesting to you, so you can transform this type of a pain and sense of suffering and loneliness into a certain work that will become purposeful to you. Something that requires you to really be accountable, something that requires you to really think deeply and to really express yourself in it through words, through doing, through building something, through organizing stuff, whatever it is. For me, I found actually recording videos very therapeutic because, well, firstly, you need to have a concept or something in your mind, and then you need to learn to talk about it, to really organize thoughts in such a way that they make sense and they can be relatable to our lives and your life. And it became to me very therapeutic because through this work I've started to understand myself even better because I was able to talk about my stuff. And sometimes I recognize I just put myself aside and very intuitive information comes through me. So I've noticed there's another part to me which is more spiritual, which is like an intuitive conversation. And more we are doing it, more we start kind of noticing the difference, how it feels when we speak from our experiences, how it feels when we speak from our ego, how it feels when we speak from certain type of protectiveness, and how we speak when how it feels when we truly speak from intuition. We start understanding ourselves so much better, and then we also can know when to use certain part of us in our world. And then, well, when you find more of this kind of purpose in your life, you will also notice that it is taking you somewhere. If you have goals with it, it will take you somehow, some way. You will start building your life around it. And then that journey will introduce you actually to the right people that you will be able to relate and exchange yourself with them and themselves with you. But don't be afraid to also be sometimes robbed of something. Sometimes people will misuse you. That's just how we are as humans. I've noticed in my life, especially when I went into business, that I shouldn't be afraid of trusting people. Because even sometimes you trust someone, you also sign a deal that they will take something from you. Because you still don't know what else is possible to be experienced from other people. So sometimes you need to accept that, yeah, some bad things may happen. But if you don't see them as something really bad, you see them as something to avoid next time, to be more perceptive with what kind of people not to collaborate, right? It's all a lesson. And it helped me to become more open also for new future collaborations, because truly sometimes you meet people that firstly they introduce themselves like they want to help you, but they are actually there to take something from you. And you learn that. You're not like, you don't close down, you don't feel like the world is against you. You just know that's how we are. Like we all have certain errors and flaws and things to heal. And more you see those things in others, more you understand that it's also inside of you. And well, sometimes this kind of situations may appear. Don't be so afraid of them, but also don't tolerate it if it happens. See that every time someone will misuse you, you've learned an important lesson. If you really read that person, you will notice that, well, when a new person comes with same characteristics, you need to be careful. You need to be careful. And you need to speak your truth and protect your respect. You have to do it. And then the next one will become way much better and aligned with your values and with your vision. So I hope you found something valuable today. I'm sending you lots of love, blessings, and power. Till next time, my friends, one love.